Sonic has had many boss fights over the years, and I think he has some of the most memorable boss fights in all of gaming. From being just absolutely badass, fast-paced, or just some insane-like music when playing through these bosses just makes every bit of it even more memorable. And I think this is a big thing that I've always get excited about whenever a new Sonic game comes out, is just to see how amazing the boss fights are going to be, and hopefully that Sega will hit the mark on all of those. And with the release of Sonic Superstars, I thought no differently, especially with the multiple playable characters, thinking that the game could have crazy innovative boss fights for the game. And even with each character having different abilities, I thought there'd be insane ways to be able to clear different boss fights within the game, but I was sadly mistaken. Now, this is a topic that I've been waiting to get off my chest for a while, just because I thought I was the only one that kind of thought this opinion. And after looking at multiple Sonic reviews and even just Twitter posts, I see that I'm not the only one that truly thinks this way about boss fights. And that's that Sonic Superstars boss fights are mediocre. And honestly, just some of the worst we've ever seen in Sonic, period. Now, before you get on the keyboards and tell me how much of a horrible person I am for hating on boss fights in Sonic Superstars, hear me out for a second. I do really like Sonic Superstars, and I think it's a huge step in the right direction for the classic Sonic games. With having great level design, awesome music, and also having multiple playable characters and even the Emerald abilities, I think this is a huge step in the right direction for Sonic. But the problem that I have with the game is, after blasting through the entire stage and having an absolute joy of doing so, and actually some of the best level design I've seen in classic Sonic games, you come to a screeching halt at the boss fights. And the simple thing that I don't understand with these boss fights, and I think the biggest thing that makes them bad, is why are we waiting around so long? I mean, you just played a 3 to 5 minute stage going absolutely at insane speeds with Sonic and friends, and then just come to this boss fight just to stand around? I mean, it's totally fine to have it where you have to wait for an enemy to attack, but should I really be waiting almost 5 to 7 minutes an entire boss fight? I mean, the boss fight is longer than the stage itself. Why am I waiting around so long? And I think the biggest example for this is the Fang boss fight, and Fang being a character that we are all excited to see come back just to absolutely just be crapped on just because of how bad his boss fight is. And honestly, with the way that Sega has worked in the past, it makes me fear, just because of how fans' reactions to the boss fights have been, that we might not see Fang again. And this is an utter shame, just because of the simple fact that I really like Fang, and I think he's one of the coolest characters or even villains for that fact. And I think he fits perfect for the classic Sonic games, and I hope he continues to come back, but it's hard to say after what they really did to him in Superstars. But Fang returning in the future isn't the point with this. The point is you sit on this little pedestal that you can't run, all you can do is jump, and you just kind of sit around just dodging fire, I guess? You're just waiting for Fang to basically build his Optimus Prime-like thing in the background while we just sit here and I guess wait for him. And Fang isn't the only boss that does this. There is many bosses, and almost damn near every boss in this game after every stage, you're going to sit around and have to wait to attack each boss. And I get it, it's totally fine to wait for an opening on a boss fight, but when it takes almost a damn near minute to wait for just an opening, or even 5 to 7 minutes to be able to attack a certain villain, it's just damn right outrageous at that point. You know, believe it or not, I actually wanted to play Sonic Superstars, not watch Fang build Megatron. But this continues to happen throughout the entire game. Each boss seems like that you're standing around waiting for something. And the biggest thing is the final boss of the main story continues to make you wait and sit around. Waiting for him to shoot off his bombs or waiting to be able to hit something back at him, you are continuing to wait and sit there and just sit there. Why are we sitting around so much? Another bad thing that actually ties into waiting around is actually the checkpoints in each boss fight as well. And the easiest way to explain this is the Fang and the final boss fight of the main story, and the Fang boss fight in Trip's story. And I know that I'm continuing to use these two for an examples and absolutely dogging on them at the moment, but they're the easiest way to get my point across. But what I'm talking about is these bosses have 2 phases. And with having 2 phases, it makes it equally longer to stand around, but that's not exactly what I'm getting at here. Yes, we are standing around a lot in this, so it automatically is going to make this boss fight drag on even longer, but it's a simple fact that once you get to the second phase, there isn't a checkpoint. So not only do you stand around at the beginning of the first phase for close to 10 minutes, even if you do get to that second phase, which is notably harder, and you end up failing, you get sent right back to the beginning and having to do it all over again. And this makes for just failing even like 5 times, you're basically at an hour of playtime at this point. And notably, the game doesn't really tell you what to do, so you're having to learn on your own and what you actually have to do to defeat these bosses. So this takes a really long time. It honestly feels like I'm sitting in these boss fights longer than I am in the actual stages, and that's not where I want to be at in this game, and honestly one of the biggest reasons why I think this game has really bad replay value at that. And I mean, don't even get me started on the Fang boss fight inside of Trips' story. I mean, I spent almost 3 hours on stream just for me to end up rage quitting. And I'm not typically someone that gets mad at games, especially Sonic games, considering how nostalgic and fun they are to me, but man, I just could not figure it out for the life of me to be able to do that, and being able to be sent all the way back after all that hard work was just one of the most annoying things I've experienced in a Sonic game. And honestly, I think I'll always have PTSD from playing Trips' story just because of that simple fact. And like I was saying, I think that's one of the biggest reasons that the replay value of the game is some of the worst that we've seen in Sonic games. I mean, sure, it's not Shadow 2005 bad, but it's kind of up there. I mean, it gets to the point where I want to blaze through the stages, and then once I get to the boss fights, just quit the game out and then move on to the next stage. I really don't feel like sitting around and waiting this entire time, where it feels like Sonic Superstars' actual levels would only take me about an hour to beat the game. And I don't know if this was a way for Sega to basically make the game longer in terms of gameplay. It's just not the way that I would do it. I would much prefer a shorter Sonic game opposed to a longer Sonic game where we're just standing around. And even if the boss fights are bad, at least we have some good music to listen to, right? Yeah, no. Is there really any true redeeming factor about these boss fights? I mean, at this point, what is actually good about these? I hate to be that guy and sound like I'm complaining so much inside of this video, but at what point do we kind of just face reality and say that these were just a mistake? And ultimately, I think this lowers this on my classic Sonic tier list personally, just because of the fact that I don't want to play this game anymore because of this. I mean, at this point, I would much rather be playing Mania or Sonic 3. I mean, it's pretty obvious that these are the superior classic Sonic games. And I mean, at least they have decent music inside of the actual boss fights. I mean, this is just some Sonic 4 ripoff at this point, and nobody likes Sonic 4 music. Well, I'm sure somebody enjoys it, but you know, I think you're in a small group. And I am very appreciative for Jun Sunuye's absolute masterpiece of work on Crush 40 songs, but when it comes to composing these Sonic Superstars, it makes me want him to never do a Sonic game ever again. And I mean, at least for the classic Sonic games, let's just stick to T. Lopez, because it's clear who the Sonic fans who enjoy more. And another thing that I want to touch on the boss fights is something that I think people might make an argument about. And that's just probably the simple fact of people saying, well, just use Super Sonic if you don't like him so much. And while yes, I do get that argument, but keep in mind, you don't get Super Sonic till the end of the game. I mean, the game makes you get only 1 emerald per zone in the entire game. So you have to, at the very least, be 7 zones in to be able to get Super Sonic. And that's 7 boss fights of, again, standing around. And even to the point of even if you do get Super Sonic, it makes him utterly useless in the boss fights. Sure, it is amazing to be invincible and also have that golden hair on him, but this simply just still doesn't work. Because you're going to activate Super Sonic, say at the beginning of the boss fight, and wait 10 minutes. Super Sonic only lasts 50 seconds at most because of the rings. I mean, the game doesn't give you that many rings while you're in a boss fight. I mean, sure, you can activate Super Sonic once you get into the boss fight and get a couple hits on him, and even use the Emerald abilities for that fact, but it gets to a point where you're only lasting it for 50 seconds, so you're going to be at a one hit the entire boss fight. And as I'm sure many Sonic fans are aware, being at 0 rings in a boss fight is one of the most heart-racing moments you'll ever live in your entire life. Just knowing that death is completely surrounding you every moment of that boss fight. But this is just simply something that I want to get off my chest, and just something that I wanted to actually talk about to see if there's other people out there that feel like the way that I did playing this game. And I'm sure that there's going to be people that continue to feel this way, that, you know, either get Sonic Superstars for Christmas or play it later down the road. I really hope that Sega decides to take Sonic Superstars as a learning lesson for their boss fights. As much as I enjoy the stages, it does put a big weight on the game for me going back and playing it. And I know Sonic Team can create great boss fights. They've done it many times in the past, and there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to do it now. But that's just a simple rant. I do think that you guys should still try out Sonic Superstars, especially if you're a Sonic fan. It is a great game, and a huge step in the right direction for classic Sonic, but the boss fights just caution warning ahead for those. And I hope you guys like this style of video. I do really like doing discussions, and I want to continue to keep doing them on the channel, as I know it's not something that I've typically done in the past year, but something that I would like to continue doing in the future. And be sure to hit the like button to show me that you guys are enjoying these discussion videos, as it does show a lot of support for them and shows me that you guys want to continue seeing them. And of course, hit that subscribe button, as it does help out the channel a lot and continues to show you guys videos from me. But with all that being said, guys, be sure to let me know how you guys feel on the Sonic Superstars boss fights in the comments below, as I would love to hear what you guys have to say about them, even if it is good or bad. But I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.